If you think nighttime is just for sleep, you're missing one of the most powerful windows your body has for restoration, confidence, and intimate performance. Because what you do in those quiet hours before sleep can quietly shape how you feel about yourself, how your body responds, and how connected you feel in your most private moments. There is a simple yet often overlooked nighttime oil routine that has been used in different forms for generations, not as a magic trick, but as a grounding ritual that supports circulation, relaxation, and emotional reset, all of which play a deeper role in men's performance than most people realize. When we talk about performance in intimacy, it's easy to reduce it to a physical event. But the truth is far more layered. Stress, mental fatigue, emotional distance, self-pressure, and even poor sleep can silently interfere with the body's natural rhythm. The body does not operate in isolation from the mind, and this is where a nighttime oil routine becomes more than skincare or self-care. It becomes a signal to the nervous system that it is safe to slow down, to release tension, and to restore balance. And when the nervous system is regulated, everything from energy levels to confidence and physical responsiveness begins to shift in subtle but meaningful ways. Imagine ending your day not in front of a screen or in mental overdrive, but in a calm, intentional moment where warm oil meets the skin and your breathing naturally begins to slow. The concept is simple, but the impact is often underestimated. Gentle oil application, especially when combined with slow self-massage techniques, helps stimulate blood flow to areas that carry tension throughout the day. For many men, stress accumulates silently in the shoulders, lower back, thighs, and pelvic region, creating a kind of internal tightness that is rarely acknowledged but deeply felt. Releasing that tension is not just physical relief, it is emotional unwinding. Certain natural oils, such as warm sesame oil, coconut oil, or even light blends infused with herbal extracts, have been traditionally used in nighttime routines because of their warming and soothing properties. These oils are not acting like medicine in a direct sense, but they support skin health, improve tactile awareness, and encourage mindful touch, which in turn helps shift attention away from stress and toward presence. Presence is one of the most overlooked factors in intimacy. When a person is fully present in their body, they are not distracted by anxiety, performance pressure, or emotional disconnection. They are simply aware, grounded, and responsive. What makes this routine powerful is not just the oil itself, but the ritual surrounding it. The consistency of doing something calming before sleep trains the brain to associate nighttime with recovery rather than stimulation. Over time, this can improve sleep quality, and sleep is one of the strongest natural regulators of hormone balance, including testosterone levels, which are directly linked to energy, desire, and physical performance. Poor sleep disrupts this balance quietly, often without immediate warning signs, but a calming nighttime ritual helps restore it gradually. There is also a psychological dimension that cannot be ignored. Many men carry invisible pressure related to expectations in intimacy, whether spoken or unspoken. This pressure often builds silently and can manifest as anxiety or emotional withdrawal. A nighttime oil routine creates a private space where there is no expectation to perform, no external judgment, and no urgency. In that space, the body learns to associate touch with relaxation rather than pressure. This shift, while subtle, can have a profound impact over time. Even the act of slowing down is therapeutic. In a world that constantly pushes speed and productivity, choosing to spend even 10 to 15 minutes in a slow, intentional self-care ritual is a form of reclaiming control over one's internal state. As the hands move gently over the skin, breathing naturally deepens, heart rate slows, and the mind begins to detach from the accumulated stress of the day. This is where the real transformation begins, not in dramatic changes, but in small, consistent signals to the body that it is safe, supported, and allowed to rest. Over time, this routine can influence how a man experiences his own body. Instead of feeling disconnected or fatigued, there is a gradual return of sensitivity, awareness, and internal balance. And when the body feels balanced, performance in all forms of intimacy tends to improve naturally, without force or pressure. It is not about creating artificial enhancement, but about removing the barriers that quietly interfere with natural function. As we go deeper into this topic, we will explore exactly how this nighttime oil routine is structured, what techniques can amplify its effects, and why emotional awareness is just as important as physical care in shaping men's intimate confidence and performance over time. As we go deeper into this practice, it becomes important to understand that the nighttime oil routine is not a single technique, but a layered experience that works on multiple levels of the body and mind at the same time. What often gets overlooked is that male performance in intimacy is not only about physical capability, but about how smoothly the nervous system transitions from the stress of the day into a state of relaxation and receptivity. Most men carry an invisible load of mental fatigue, even when they appear fine on the outside, and that internal pressure can quietly affect confidence, responsiveness, and emotional availability without being immediately obvious. The first layer of this routine begins with intention. Before any oil is even used, the mind has to shift out of productivity mode. This is where many people miss the real power of the ritual. If the mind is still replaying conversations, planning tomorrow, or carrying unresolved stress, then even the most carefully chosen oil will only have a limited effect. The real shift begins when a man consciously decides that this moment is no longer about output or achievement, but about restoration. That internal permission to slow down is what starts to open the nervous system. Once that mental shift begins, the body naturally becomes more receptive. Warm oil applied to the skin is not just a surface-level experience. The warmth itself encourages vasodilation, a gentle widening of blood vessels, which can support circulation and create a soothing sensation throughout the body. But beyond the physical response, there is something more subtle happening. The skin is the largest sensory organ, and when it is touched slowly and mindfully, it sends continuous feedback signals to the brain that reinforce calmness and safety. Over time, this repeated signal can help the body become more familiar with relaxation as a default state rather than an occasional escape. One of the most effective ways to deepen this routine is through slow, rhythmic self-massage using oil on areas that commonly hold tension. The chest, shoulders, neck, lower back, thighs, and even the abdomen are regions where emotional stress often accumulates physically. When these areas are ignored, tension tends to build up silently and can affect posture, breathing patterns, and overall body awareness. By gently working oil into these regions with steady, unhurried movements, the body begins to release stored tightness that may have been held for hours or even days. Breathing plays a crucial role during this process. When breathing remains shallow and fast, the nervous system stays partially activated, even if the body is at rest. But when breathing naturally slows down in sync with touch, something important begins to change. The parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for rest and recovery, becomes more active. This is the same system that supports deeper sleep, emotional regulation, and physical restoration. In this state, the body is not preparing for stress, it is preparing for healing. Another often overlooked aspect is the emotional layer that surfaces during stillness. When a man finally slows down, even briefly, thoughts and emotions that were suppressed during the day can begin to rise. This is not a negative experience, although it can feel unfamiliar at first. It is actually a sign that the mind is no longer in constant defense mode. The key is not to resist these thoughts, but to allow them to pass while maintaining focus on the physical sensations of the routine. The oil, the touch, and the breath become anchors that keep awareness grounded in the present moment. This is where the connection to intimacy becomes more meaningful. True intimate performance is not just about physical readiness, but about emotional presence and the ability to stay connected to one's body without distraction. When a man becomes more comfortable in his own physical and emotional space, he is less likely to experience performance anxiety or internal pressure. Instead of being in his head, he becomes more embodied, more responsive, and more naturally attuned to sensation. There is also a subtle but important effect on self-perception. Many men do not realize how much internal dialogue influences their confidence. Thoughts like self-doubt, comparison, or fear of inadequacy can quietly shape behavior in intimate moments. A consistent nighttime oil routine creates a counterbalance to that internal noise. It reinforces a message through action rather than words that the body is not something to be judged or rushed, but something to be cared for and understood. Over time, this repeated message can gradually reshape the relationship a man has with his own body. Instead of viewing it only in terms of performance outcomes, there is a shift toward appreciation of sensation, awareness, and balance. This does not happen instantly, and it is not dramatic, but it is steady. And that steadiness is what makes it powerful. Sleep quality also begins to improve as the routine becomes consistent. The nervous system, when repeatedly exposed to calming pre-sleep rituals, starts to anticipate rest at a certain time. This anticipation helps the body transition more easily into deeper stages of sleep. And since sleep is one of the most critical periods for hormonal regulation and physical recovery, improvements in sleep often translate into noticeable changes in energy, mood stability, and overall vitality. As these layers build on each other, the routine stops feeling like a separate activity and starts becoming part of a larger internal rhythm. It is no longer just something done before bed, but a signal that the day is complete and the body is allowed to restore itself fully. This is where many of the deeper benefits begin to emerge, not because of any single step, but because of the consistency of the practice over time. As this practice deepens over time, something subtle but important begins to happen in a man's internal world. The routine is no longer just about relaxation before sleep. It becomes a kind of reset for how he relates to himself emotionally and physically. This is where the connection to intimacy and performance becomes more direct, because real change rarely comes from forcing improvement. It comes from removing the internal resistance that blocks natural function in the first place. One of the most significant shifts that develops through consistency is confidence that is not dependent on external validation. Many men unconsciously tie their sense of adequacy to performance outcomes in intimate situations, which creates pressure before anything even happens. That pressure can quietly interfere with arousal, responsiveness, and emotional openness. When the body is in a state of internal tension, it does not fully relax into sensation, and when it does not relax, performance naturally becomes less fluid. The nighttime oil routine works in the opposite direction. It trains the body to associate touch with safety rather than expectation, and presence with comfort rather than pressure. This matters more than most people realize. Intimacy is not just a physical act, it is a nervous system experience shared between two people. When one person is internally tense, even slightly, that tension can affect the overall connection. But when the body is regularly exposed to slow, non-judgmental touch in a private, pressure-free environment, it begins to relearn how to relax more quickly and more completely. Over time, this can translate into a calmer presence in intimate situations, where the mind is not overanalyzing and the body is not holding back. There is also a deeper emotional component that begins to emerge. Many men spend their days in roles that require control, decision-making, and emotional restraint. Over time, this can create a kind of internal separation from softer sensations like relaxation, vulnerability, and emotional awareness. The nighttime oil routine gently reconnects those parts of experience. It is not about becoming overly emotional or losing control, but about restoring access to a full range of internal states that often get suppressed in daily life. When this reconnection happens consistently, it can change how a man experiences closeness. Emotional intimacy becomes less intimidating because the body is no longer conditioned to associate stillness with discomfort. Instead, stillness becomes familiar. This familiarity is important because intimacy requires a level of internal calm that allows both physical and emotional responsiveness to flow naturally. Without that calm, even attraction can feel mentally noisy or disconnected. Another important aspect is how this routine influences body awareness. Most men are not actively aware of the subtle signals their body sends throughout the day. Tightness in the shoulders, shallow breathing, fatigue in the lower body, or a general sense of restlessness often go unnoticed until they accumulate. The act of slow oil application creates a feedback loop where attention is directed inward in a gentle and non-judgmental way. This builds a stronger mind-body connection, which is essential for consistent performance and comfort in intimate settings. Over time, this awareness can lead to better control over arousal states, not in a forced way, but in a natural and responsive way. When a man is more in tune with his body, he is more likely to recognize early signs of tension or overstimulation and adjust his breathing or mindset accordingly. This prevents the buildup of internal pressure that often contributes to performance inconsistency. It is not about control in the rigid sense, but about awareness that allows the body to function more smoothly. Sleep continues to play a foundational role in this entire process. As the routine becomes part of a nightly rhythm, the body starts to anticipate relaxation at a specific time, and this anticipation helps reduce resistance to sleep. Deeper sleep supports hormonal balance, including the natural cycles that influence energy, motivation, and intimate drive. When sleep improves, everything else tends to stabilize as well. including mood, patience, and emotional resilience. What is often surprising is that the benefits of this routine extend beyond intimacy itself. Men who practice consistent nighttime relaxation rituals often report feeling more grounded during the day, less reactive under stress, and more emotionally steady in relationships. This happens because the nervous system is no longer stuck in a constant state of low-level alertness. Instead, it learns how to shift more fluidly between activity and rest. In the broader sense, this routine is not about enhancing performance in isolation. It is about restoring balance between tension and relaxation, between doing and being, between external expectation and internal awareness. When that balance improves, performance in intimacy becomes a natural outcome rather than a forced goal. The body responds more freely, the mind interferes less, and emotional connection becomes easier to access. In conclusion, the nighttime oil routine is less about oil itself and more about what it represents. A deliberate pause at the end of the day, where a man reconnects with his body, releases accumulated tension, and allows his nervous system to reset. Over time, this simple practice can reshape confidence, deepen emotional presence, improve sleep quality, and support more natural and relaxed intimate experiences. It is not a quick fix, and it is not a performance hack, but a steady return to internal balance, where the body and mind begin to work with each other instead of against each other.